I started my handyman business a few years ago with just a small amount of construction experience, but no business experience whatsoever. So it was a bumpy road for me to get to the point where I am now, where everything's running smoothly, good money coming in. Like, I couldn't ask for a better situation. But that prompted someone to ask me, well, why did you start if it was going to be, because it was a mess for a while. And I'm like, I'm glad you asked. I got 5 reasons why I started. And I know a lot of y'all can relate, so here they go. Reason number 1, honestly, bad dealings with other contractors. This is when I wasn't in the game as far as doing handyman work, when I was getting work done on my own property, or there's times I was, fixing houses up or fixing a house up, helping somebody or myself fixing the house up. And it seemed like every time that we moved something, we had to fix something behind it to put the new part in. For instance, I was changing out sliding glass door, and I noticed, we noticed beforehand that the floor was kind of getting discoloration or whatever. So it was like, okay, I'm just hoping there's not bad water damage underneath. Well, of course there was, right? But this is a builder special. This was something that the contractors put in when they built the house. The pros, right? Well, when I took this door off, I'd come to find out they didn't do anything. They slapped the door in there. There's no caulk, no flashing tape, no nothing. They just sat it right on the wood and kept it moving, which of course, it rotted out, go figure. But situations like that just had me thinking, what makes a professional? I mean, time and time again, I had a guy install a door another time. This is before eventually I became a door specialist. At least I called myself, I was that. But I had a guy install a door, and this is through Lowe's. And then the new door, and it was nothing was really wrong with the door. We just wanted to update it, upgrade. But the new door, I walked in, this guy was long gone, and the threshold was super spongy. But at the time, I didn't know any better. Of course, I noticed it, like, man, why is it so spongy? The other one wasn't like that. But of course, the professional did it, and I know that guy was an actual builder. He built small additions and everything like that. So they must know what they're doing, right? So, and it was things like that. Of course, later on, I actually ended up selling doors and windows at Lowe's, working in the millwork department. And I learned a whole lot about windows and doors. And of course I learned that, okay, they installed it wrong. They didn't put anything under the threshold to stabilize it. But it was things like that which made me say, well, who gets to decide who's a professional? Why? Because somebody got their name slapped on the side of a truck means they are a professional? Because that's basically the standard. So I was like, well, I know how to do some of this stuff. Why can't I throw my hat in the ring and to see where I get? I know my work ethic, so that's what I did. So, and I aimed, I hate to say it, but I did. I aimed at certain companies that were around me in my area, like they're going down, you know what I mean? And I did it. I rose, above them in the ranks or whatever. I didn't kill their businesses, but you know what I mean? I just surpassed them in as far as like Google rankings and things like that. But that's reason number 1. I hate to say it. Was it out of spite? I don't know. But it pushed me to go into the business. The second reason why I started a handyman business was fulfillment. I've had plenty of jobs. I've had a lot of jobs over the years, y'all. And the one thing I never had was, when you get through working after a day, it was just you got through working. The one thing I never had was the feeling of accomplishment. I went to work. Yeah, you go to work, you get a paycheck, and that's some people, that's all they want. They just want the paycheck. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we also need people that what I want, what I love is that feeling of accomplishment when somebody's been having a problem for a long time and when they've hired different people and they've tried to get it fixed and they keep throwing money out the window, and here you come and you actually care. The joy that you experience with the people from just actually fixing the problem, large or small. Sometimes it's very simple. I've gotten reactions from, I built structures for people and they've loved it, versus, all the way down to fixing a doorknob and making the door close properly. And I've had people express more joy from that sometimes than the big jobs, you know? So, I mean, that feeling of fulfillment, man, the idea, I read a book years ago called Shop Class of SoulCraft. And a big portion of that book is about the guy basically, he fixes bikes on the side. You know, he doesn't, I guess he works full time, and on the side he fixed motorcycles. And he was talking about how much more fulfilling that work was. And then he went into the science. And it's actually a scientific thing. What's up, all my folks in YouTube land? Daryl, also known as The Finisher. Quick PSA, I just use the term scientifical things. Is it real? I don't know. It is now, though. It's just my new favorite phrase, okay? So, back to the regularly scheduled program. For, you know, working with your hands is much more fulfilling, and because you get to complete things. You get to, there's closure, there's projects where you start with a pile of wood, and then when you're finished, you might have a whole structure you built. It's amazing. There was nothing there. That is a big building or something there, and it was you that did that. I mean, that feeling of accomplishment, man, I mean, I love it. So, reason number 3, freedom. Now, I don't want people to get the wrong impression of being a handyman. You don't get total freedom. I mean, people say you can kind of work when you want, which is true, but it's not true. I mean, you can. The thing is, if I have work scheduled for tomorrow, I can decide not to work, but that's really going to inconvenience my own schedule plus the customer schedule. It could possibly inconvenience that. So, could I just take off tomorrow because I felt like it? Yes, I had the freedom to do that. What I mean when I say freedom, though, is I had the freedom to set my own schedule. I don't have a time clock. If I got something to do in the morning, I could schedule jobs for the evening. Now, when it comes to scheduling, I mean, I can just schedule whatever days off I want, and there ain't really no holiday. I can just say, hey, every Monday, I could just take off because that's what I want to do. I mean, I don't know, look, how many people I've worked in plants, and this is another thing that used to drive me crazy. You know, it's kind of common knowledge now that, and I'm 43, man, I just turned 43, so it's not like I'm talking about way back in the day, but it's common knowledge now that a regular school day was made to build factory workers, right? Now, I don't know if anybody's ever worked in a factory or plant. I worked in factories, I worked in plants. Dude, I worked everywhere. I used to call myself the prime minister of the proletariat. You know, I'm the epitome of the working class. Like, I've done it all. I did everything everybody told me to do. Work part-time, work 2 jobs sometimes. I've worked over 20 jobs. So I understand the plight of the people out there. So I get it. I started this thing from a different standpoint than other people. So freedom, if you ever worked at a plant, and man, the buzzers tell you what to do every step. Tell you when to start working, when to take your breaks, when to come back for breaks, when it's time for lunch, it was insane. It used to just drive me crazy. When I finally got a job where I just didn't have time clocks, that was, that was great. You know, even then I still had a time frame. I still had every day I had to be there at the same time, and I couldn't change if I wanted to do something different. I had to ask permission, and that just it irritated me. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but now I have the freedom to, if I need a day off or something, I just do it. If I don't want to work on the weekend, if I don't, I just do it. I can adjust the schedule how I want to. So that freedom is the 3rd reason why I started the handyman business. The 4th reason I started a handyman business was work ethic and confidence. I mean, look, one thing, if I didn't know anything else, I knew that I was going to put in the work. I was going to put in the work to, learn what I needed to learn and just go the extra mile, whatever it took, because I did it on my jobs. If they needed somebody to stay for overtime, I stayed for overtime. And I remember working at an Amazon plant, and it'd be 3 a.m, and they'd offer people to just leave if they wanted to. That liberal leave, you could go, we're not gonna pay you for the rest of your shift. And I'd be the only one to stay. And then finally they had to convince me to leave, tell me they'd give me a free day or something like that. But it was like that. I was gonna put in the work. And I knew that about myself, so I was confident. I was confident I could do it. Didn't know how long it would take. And actually, I was probably overconfident because I thought I'd get in, and I was like, man, by the end of the first 6 months, man, I'll be making X amount of dollars. Did not happen. Doesn't mean that's everybody's story, but that was definitely my story. I've done everything from manual labor to office work to whatever else. So anybody who's out there who thinks that, you know, you have to have a lifetime of experience of doing this kind of work, you don't. But I will say that the years that I spent once I started until now, it was a university level education, and I got paid to do it. Now, sometimes it hurt, and it hurt bad. But yeah, you know, so in general, get your confidence up, man. Like you said, you know, and understand your work ethic. If you know you're willing to work, I mean, hey, I was willing to work and stay on the computer, working on my website and falling asleep at 3 a.m. at the computer to get this thing going. I mean, doing whatever I had to do. I'm working, I had one job during the day. I remember going to job, like somebody called me because they got a rental property, needs to be rented out. I'm there in the middle of the night, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning to get this job done because I was just trying to put that work in. I was like tired of putting all this extra overtime, all this work in for other people. I said, what if I put that same energy and effort into myself? That's number 4. The 5th and final reason that I got into this business was pure desperation. I hate to say it like that. I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but it was. So I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. That's why I said I was part of the working class as far as, you know, get a job. I did everything they told you to do. Get a job, try to move up, work hard, try to move up. And I did this job, didn't allow me to move up. So I went to the next one. Did the same thing, try to work my way up, here's another roadblock, go to another job. I finally got to a job that was pretty good, stable, working in civil engineering, not as an engineer, but as an engineering technician. Problem was 2008 came, and I worked there for like 4 years, and then 2008 hit. Man, people talk about inflation. I'm telling you now, inflation, I feel like inflation started back then, maybe even 2006 when the housing market crashed, because it just came to a complete halt. Wages, nobody was paying anybody anything anymore. There was no jobs, there was nowhere to go. But at all the rates, everything kept going up. So you can say inflation started now, but I feel like it started back then. And I remember every year the inflation just boom, boom, boom. My wages stayed the same. And then finally when they did, I mean, where I worked at, man, they milked that for a decade. We didn't get any kind of raises or anything. So I didn't complain because I'm not that guy. I said, you know what, this is the situation. I work part-time. So I did that. I worked a security job. Dude, I gave up weekends for like 8 years, during the day at least, to work a security job. So I was doing both, working my regular job and every weekend. And it was literally like 8 years I did that. No progress whatsoever. Finally, I ended up I worked 2 jobs. I was working my job. I worked full time at Amazon in the warehouse just to try to get some money. And I thought to myself at one time, if I needed $200, say I just needed $200 to just, for whatever, emergency came up, I just need $200. How would I get that? And I didn't have the answer. I was talking to myself, you know what I mean? So don't judge me. But I didn't have an answer. And it was just like, that was ridiculous to me. It was absurd. You know what my answer was? I guess I gotta wait 2 more weeks until I get paid. That didn't suffice, didn't sit well with me. Then the job, I got to the point where, it was either quit and go into this full time, or I wasn't gonna be able to pay the mortgage at the end of that next month. And I had enough jobs lined up, you know, that I was gonna make money. Now, I learned the hard way that it doesn't matter how many jobs you have lined up. If you're not charging properly, you're still gonna be broke. So I did learn that lesson pretty quickly, but out of pure desperation, I had to jump right in. And luckily my wife, she was with me on it. It took her some convincing, but at the end of the day, I mean, what's the option? You know what, like not being able to pay your mortgage? And she worked, she would have helped me down, but she didn't make enough money to, like I told you, we had 5 kids. She didn't make enough money to pay everything. You know, so she can help me, but I'm old school, man. I feel responsible for a lot of that. So I dove in. Do not suggest that. I suggest that if you have if you have time to plan it out, do that. Luckily, I'll say this, when it did get to the point where I had to either sink or swim. I had started the business at that point. I had LLC, all the business form. I had a website. I had everything going. I was running, and I had been in. I had the business going for maybe 3 months. Like I said, it was nowhere near long enough. And like I said, the first month I didn't get any calls. So, but I was making so little that I felt like, you know, it would be fine. I'd be all right. At the end of the day, it turned out there was good, there was bad, you know, but it gave me, like I told you, it gave me a university level education as far as I'm concerned in this business, because I did it all. I did it all. Some I did wrong, some I did right. I did commercial work. I worked as a subcontractor. I worked with doing property management. I worked under realtors. I used all the lead generation services. I tried almost all of them. So it allowed me in a way to really immerse myself in all aspects of this business. I mean, that's what it is, man. Complete desperation, but I'm here now. And hey, I appreciate the journey. I'm one of those people. The journey, it's all about the journey, man. And I'm still not done. So I'm still trying to head somewhere. So hopefully somebody out there can relate to this. And if you're on the fence, or if you're thinking about it, getting into something like this, you don't have to even go all in. You can start with something small. If you're thinking about skills and trying stuff out, like I said, try it at your house. Try it at a relative's house, a friend's house, just the small stuff. Because I wouldn't let you come over and try major stuff in my house, because that'd be crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you're doing. But we could work on projects and stuff like that, man. Just try it. Try to get experience however you can. And then if you want to start, there's low-hanging fruit everywhere. You can start with like doing the ceiling fans. You can start with installs. You know, I used to do installs for Home Depot for appliances. That was you do got to learn what you're doing, but after you get the process down, it's pretty cut and dry with most things. There's a lot of things that you can do that'll help you secure your footing. So I just suggest that you just try stuff out. You find a niche. When I first started, I leave you with this last little tidbit. When I first started, I was literally just going to do flooring and tile. That was it. My first job when I started, when I went full time, was a hardwood floor. And I hardly do any of those things today, hardly ever, unless it's part of a project and I might do some tile or some flooring or something like that. But you never know what direction you're gonna head in with this. So get your skills up, man. Use this. You can do it. Daryl also knows the finisher, man. Subscribe, man. Subscribe. Handyman 2.0. Stay safe. Be blessed.